How's everybody doing? Good.
Yeah.
Good, I hope. We all it's it's that time of year where we're all still kind of going, what kind of year is it going to be? So, I'm right with you on that one. So, anyway, it's spring is springing here in Middle Tennessee, which is so nice. It's in the low 60s here. Just beautiful. So I'm going to go for a nice long walk after our time together. So, um, I, as always, am here to talk to you, to answer your questions. And hi, John. John, you're always hiding from me, but that's all right. I've grown used to it. Um, so I'm here to answer your questions and, you know, just talk about anything that's on your mind, any, you know, specific to recording, to VO life, anything that you've got on your mind. Um, and and it looks like we're going to start with Adrian.
I guess we will.
How
Um,
are
and
you?
I'm looking good, good.
Good.
How are you, Kate?
Good. Thank you.
Um, so I'm looking at you and I'm looking at this little fella you've got on your
Yeah.
416.
Yeah.
And I actually behind me is where I record.
Okay.
This is my Zoom setup, but
Yeah.
back
Yeah. Sure.
there. And I got two of them. I got two of these little puppies,
Yeah.
which were a little pricey, but it was like, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I put the foam cover back on the 416, and I like the sound better.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on that? So, I mean, I own these guys, but I was like, this has got to be better than the long foam thing because that's got to muffle the sound or something. And I went, oh no, that sounds pretty good.
No, I think you get the foam thing with the 416,
Right,
right? So I think those cats know what they're doing when they give out, the accoutrement, that comes with
right,
their
right,
microphone. I just
right.
think it's a matter of preference.
Okay.
Honestly, I when I travel with my mic, I travel with my foam thing. I don't take this with me. I have
Right.
a
Well, it's kind of fragile. I can understand that
yeah.
too.
Yeah. I just thought, a girlfriend of mine, voice actor, she does a lot of radio work, radio imaging stuff. She got one, and I was intrigued, and so I bought it. And I think that's how things go. It's not like I didn't do some deep dive research into what's the best, windscreen. Um, so honestly, I think it's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, because I was very disappointed after buying these guys, and they look so cool, and they're kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let me compare them, and I put the phone back on and went, oh, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing too. Well, so you on your, is that a 416 as well? So do you have
Believe
two?
it or not, I would recommend this puppy. Um, it is a clone of a 416.
Okay.
It is made by a company called stupid name Synco, Synco.
All right. Everybody paying attention?
And it costs 225.
Yeah, that's great.
And I've seen people do the shootout on different videos.
Uh-huh.
Here's the 416. Here's the Cinco D2. Here's the 416.
Yeah.
I mean, I can barely tell the difference, or maybe not even tell the
Yeah. I
difference.
mean, I think audiophiles are really kind of the only people who can really tell the difference
Right. But for
with
our
at a certain
purpose,
level, it's like wine to me. I
yeah.
can tell the difference between a $7 bottle of wine and a $25 bottle of wine, but I can't really tell the difference between a 25 and a 100. I
Or
can't tell. Or
250 or something.
250.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't.
yeah.
I'm not that sophisticated.
So since I've spent so much time on Zoom, all right, I'll try it out here, and it works great. So I bought
Yeah.
what's this called? It's a
I
stupid
don't
name.
know. I can't remember. I got
The
mine so
only
long
place you
ago.
can get it is B&H Photo, I think.
Yeah.
That's the only
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I just
you know,
I just think it's just sort of trendy.
oh yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
I've spent so much money over the years, I travel and so I've worked over the years at trying to find just great travel gear that's really compact and easy, and what interface can I use that's, simple and that, essentially reproduces what I do in my booth. Um, and I can't tell you how much money I've spent on this mic and that mic and this thing and this interface and that interface.
Would you mind just spending a second going over what your travel setup is?
Sure, I I bought another 416 first of all after trying to use all kinds of um other microphones. I had never heard of the one that you mentioned. So I bought this a long time ago, my second one a long time ago. I bought my first one in 2005, which is the one I have now. And then I bought
Yeah.
another one like 10 years ago or something like that. Um, so I take a 416. I In my studio at home, I my interface is an Apogee Duet, and it's
Which series, if I may ask?
um it's
Because they
this
came, not to interrupt, but they came up with a new one last year, Apogee Duet 3.
yeah, I'm a two.
Oh my God, what an improvement in a
Is
million
it?
ways.
It's an improvement.
And the interface that you see on your screen,
Uh-huh.
amazing.
All right.
And then they've got plugins you can buy.
All right.
In
I
fact,
was sort of like, I thought, well, when my Apogee Duet goes, sideways, that I wouldn't replace, I would find something else, but perhaps not. Perhaps I'll get a
oh,
three. But
in fact, if you could allow me to share a screen, I'll show you the interface and what it looks like if you're
yeah,
interested.
hang on one sec. Like, let me
Yeah.
let me finish this out. But so I have an Apogee Duet, but I travel with a Centrance MicPort Pro 2. And it's like this big, it's little, and it has great sound. And I take my 416 and I take my laptop, and that's it. That's my travel gear. Um, I have this, I'll show you this. It's like I have a Ninja.
Oh my God.
Then I travel with one of these, and I can just kind of clip it on anything, including a closet shelf,
The closet shelf. Yeah,
and I
that's the
can
tricky
bend
one.
it down and, do all those kinds of things. And um, so that's my gear, and it all goes in my backpack. And it's very simple, but the key to it for me was getting a really serviceable, easy interface, and the Centrance MicPort Pro 2 is that. I understand there's a little trouble with the 3, but I'm not sure if that's just a Mac software, compatibility thing. I'm not sure, but I'm not there yet. I just know someone who has a 3 who's like, it's driving them crazy. So, but that's it. That's all I take. And I don't have fancy schmancy anything. I use a stack in Twisted Wave that helps manage, let's say, sound in a hotel room. Um, it's just designed for that. And so I run that filter. It's essentially a filter that I run after I record my stuff.
It,
Um,
it, to interrupt, is that part of Twisted Wave or is that a plug-in from somebody else?
it's actually it's it was this stack was built in Twisted Wave by someone else who knows how to build a stack. I think George Whittam. I have one from George, and I have one also from Bo Weaver, who's a promo guy who actually helped design Twisted Wave with the
Wow.
creators of it. So Twisted Wave really was designed for voice actors, just with us in mind. Um, so so it's made in Twisted Wave. And then he made it, they make it on their computer, and then they just email it to me, right? And then I upload it, and it's accepted by Twisted Wave. And so I
So
just
it's a plug-in that
it's a
you can set
plug-in,
up.
right?
Sure.
Yeah, I click on it, and then I hit, go. And it does all the things that need to be done. and um and then I send my file. So that's it. I don't. It's not a fancy setup. It's a very efficient setup. It's and my stuff at home is really efficient. I only have that plug-in stack, but I don't have a bunch of fancy equipment. I have a microphone, an interface, and a um and a laptop. That's what I have.
And just based on what I'm hearing this very second, sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's very easy. I think people try to make things very complicated. And, and I want to say that if you're a tech person, you're a sound person and you dig all that stuff, like have fun. Like go at it. But if that isn't your thing, like just know that you don't have to do that stuff. You don't have to. Um, you just don't. There's nothing that beats a really good microphone and a decent room, you know. So and most of the time I send raw sound files anyway. So, it's all good. But um
What
so
about that
there.
whole flip handle
Yeah.
thing you had?
I'm sorry.
The thing that clips onto like
Yeah.
or whatever. Where'd you find that?
Yeah, it's called a Stage Ninja. And I
Thank you.
actually think I got it on Amazon. Stage Ninja. And again, it's looks like this. It's got a clamp. It bends all over the place. I put my 416 mic clip on this. I think it comes with a different I think it comes with a different size mic clip on it, and so that was an adjustment that I needed to make, and but it's possible to do. That's all I mean. It's a clamp, yes. It is a clamp. So that's what it's called, yeah.
Would you want me to do that the thing that comes with the Duet 3?
If you
The
want to show the it's it's Maestro, yeah?
Well, no, it's updated. I want to show you this. It's very cool. If you can give me the option of sharing, I'll just show you what it looks like.
Right. Yes, show us, and then we can get to
Um,
other folks' questions.
yeah,
So yeah,
can you give me the option to show? Oh yeah, here we
I did.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Oh,
so
interesting.
the thing on the left is the basic control. And then when you click right here, you can put plugins in it. And this particular plugin was only like, I got it on sale for $50. And it has all these presets, which are magnificent. I just go down to VoiceOver Vox Mail, and it has all the presets, and you can tweak any of them. I don't feel a need. It's got an EQ up here, and then it's got a compressor there, and boom, you are done.
Wow, interesting. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
Well,
that's
thank
it.
you.
Of course.
Thank you for showing that.
And then let me,
I won't be afraid then if I have to.
no, no. And how do I unshare? I don't know. How do I stop?
I think you go to the top, and I think it'll say stop sharing if
Um,
you're.
Stop sharing. Yeah. I'm confused.
Oops.
Um, I would love to stop sharing. Just tell me how.
Well, when I am sharing, uh, it will, like if I share my desktop, um, and then I can say stop share. There's a big bright red thing that just says stop share.
Hmm. I don't see it.
Do you have your cursor over?
Um,
It should just be at the very top.
Very top.
Here, I'll do it for you.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't know I could do that. Sorry, you guys. But
No,
here
good.
we go. Okay,
Good.
let's go to Dino.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Great to see everybody. Hello.
Hello.
My question has to do with when the appropriate time to reach out for an agent representation and how to do that. And like if I were to set up some type of follow-up, what that would look like. I don't have an agent right now. I'm about 3 years new into the voiceover business. Right now, I have a commercial demo and I'm working on my corporate narration, which should be ready in about 4 weeks.
Okay. Um, yeah, the question of agents is a complex one. Um, and I would say, there are different approaches to an agent relationship. There are different, you've got local agents, you got regional agents, you got national agents. Um, and I don't think there's any one path to representation. I will say this, like, you ought to be making money as a voice actor before an agent is going to express any interest. That's the truth. Unless you're in your teens, right? And in your teens, um, agents know that what they're doing is developing talent over time and years, and they don't expect talent to have a long history of work, And so that's the only difference, which is why it's just much easier to get an agent when you're a young thing. That's just the truth. It is much harder the older we get, which is not to say that it's impossible, but the the work, uh, commercial work is the bulk of voiceover work. It's just the most prevalent kind of work, um, particularly when we're talking about the kind of audition opportunities that come from agents. That's mostly going to be commercial. Commercial, yes, you'll get narration stuff, and you'll get, depending upon the level of agency that you're pursuing, you would get animation, video game, and other kind of peripheral things like live announcing and things like that, right? Um, so uh, we all are a part of a particular demographic. And so when you're younger, you're a part of the most prevalent demographic, the demographic that advertising agencies target the most, which is, 18 to 25. And so when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s and up, you're not the voice that they're looking for most prevalently. And that's just reality. Um, that's not to say that there aren't parts of the advertising business that we're necessary for, we are, I used to say when I was younger, like I looked so forward to being able to do things like, investments and healthcare and retirement and, and all those kinds of things, which is now the kind of stuff that I read for, you know? And so, but it's a much smaller part of the advertising world, as big as that demographic is, retirees and stuff. It's a big demographic, but in the world of advertising, we're selling clothes and shoes and perfume and Clorox bleach and, cleaning products and, all that kind of stuff. So this is all related, right? Like, and so when we come older to wanting representation, it's something that we have to rethink, right? And we have to have enough of a work history and an earning history that we are attractive to an agent, because they're not in it to develop our career. At our age, they're not in it to develop our career. They're in it for what we can bring today, right? So, And we can take that and we can kind of go, oh, well, that's a bummer. But I have so much potential. Well, yes, we all still do. It's just that we have to approach it differently. And so I think what you need is certainly a commercial demo. And depending upon the type of agency that you're looking at, you would also need one or two others, whether that is, a narration demo, whether it's a promo demo. But again, promo is like you know, it's an LA, New York kind of thing, which is and promo producers, networks, they tend to go to um, high profile, larger agencies in New York and LA. And those are the most difficult to break into, um, unless you're a teen, or in your 20s, right? So, um, what I want to say is that I think the voiceover business is so different than it was 25 years ago. And it's almost like, you don't really need an agent to have a career. You just don't. And that was proven to me the first time I went to VO Atlanta. And I thought I was going to go in and tell everybody everything I knew, and weren't they so lucky to have all my expertise, and I went and I learned so much from people there who had no interest in getting an agent because they were managing careers that were more lucrative than mine, right? And so I think it's fine to have a goal of wanting to get agency representation, but it is not the be all end all thing that it has been in the past. Unless you have in mind that you want to pursue a career in animation, you want to pursue a career in video games, you want to pursue a career in promo, in network promo, then you really have to set your sights not only on an agent, but an agent in LA and or New York, and along with those sites being set, that's when you have to come with income, you know? And so again, no, I would never say to somebody, don't waste your time. What a horrible thing to say, right? Like, you pursue the thing that you want to pursue, but if what you're after is a career doing commercials and a career doing um, narration, corporate narration, um, is entirely likely that you don't need an agent, and that in fact it it it's a lot of effort for perhaps not a lot of return, because I think we rely when I think a lot of people kind of go, oh, I have an agent now, and so I can sit back because the auditions will come to me, right? And in a certain sense, yes, they do come to you, right? But that's only a small slice of the pie. If you are not near retirement age, right? Like I am, I grew up in a different era of voiceover where that's all there was an agent relationship. And if you didn't have that, you didn't have a career. It is not the same anymore. It's just not the same. So, but let's just assume, okay? Let's assume that you have an income stream that would be that would make an agent go, oh, good, that's good. I know you're earning, right? You're right. Then what do you want to bring to them? Well, you want to bring them that income stream, and you want to have demos that reflect everything that you can do in this studio in a session. Like, you don't want to have demos that are like produced to such a degree that you can't reproduce what is on your demo, right? If you have a demo where every part of your demo is pieces taken from various takes, and they're all put together and spit shined, right? And you can't recreate, then you're not prepared. right? So your demos need to reflect everything that you can do very comfortably, right? Um, and it is best if you have a referral into an agency. Um, the best referral is from a casting director, um, or a director or producer that you've worked with who can speak to your um, talent and your capability in the studio, that you're easy to work with, that you're motivated, that you're driven, all of those kinds of things. Sometimes another talent on the roster can be of assistance, although um, my, I don't, that's not as strong of a recommendation as a casting director might be. And casting directors can be impressed by you in a workshop that you take, you know. And so doing workshops with casting directors is probably the one of the smartest uses of your time and treasure that you can do. Um, and that is not to say that casting directors will, always like you or use you or think of you when they, are casting something. I don't know that that happens very often, but I think it happens often enough to where if it does happen for you, that it's beneficial, that it can be helpful. Um, so um, that's kind of my sensibility. And then the nuts and bolts of how you might contact an agent, depends upon the referral, right? But by and large, what you want is something that is short and sweet. My agent, one of my agents at Atlas, she gets 1,500 emails a day. So they don't have time to read a dissertation about your life and all the things. It's like, hello, this person recommended me that to call you. Attached are my demos. If it makes sense, I would love to talk to you about representation. Have a great day. Like, like it's not, and there has to be a sense of like patience because, you may not hear from them for a few months. It depends upon how each agency handles submissions. Some only take submissions online, um, and they have a particular protocol that they go through. I know Atlas, I think, gets together with all the agents once a month and they review, the demos and referrals that they've gotten that month that they found, of a level that they wanted to bring it to their colleagues, right?
Mm.
Um, so, um, you know, and others, you know, I don't know if they do it twice a year. It just depends upon whatever the protocol is, and you can usually find out what the protocol is by going to that agency's website,
Mm.
right? So, but the nuts and bolts of those kinds of things, are kind of later. When you really have all your ducks in a row, and you're like, okay, and then you converse. If you've got a recommendation from someone, you talk to them about, if someone like I'm giving you advice about how to, I think it's relevant to every agency because every agent, is busy and gets a lot of emails. But this is what I know directly from my own, like short and sweet. I don't, you know, and um, but it may be that based on the casting director that you're talking to, if they're like, yeah, send it to them on a Thursday at noon, they may have their own window, where there's a lull in the week or what have you, right? Um, so that's probably a lot of allotness and not a lot of specifics. But um, but really, what I wanna impart really is that I think all of us have to modify our understanding of the importance of an agent in our careers if we are not LA, New York, Chicago voice actors, right? If we're actually quite living the good life in other parts of the country, with affordable housing and, um, ours are different careers. They're different and they can be great, truly great. I've told this story, I think, a million times, but, you know, I- a, a gentleman a few years ago living in Overland, Kansas, was having a lot of success in promo work because he had LA representation, I think, and was doing really well. And he said to me, I think I want to move to LA because I want to, up the thing. And I'm like, okay, so tell me about your life, like, do you own a home? He's like, yeah. He goes, man, our mortgage is almost paid off. I'm like, really? Okay, great. How many kids you got? Four. Okay, you have four kids. And what kind of schools are? How old are they? What kind of schools? Well, they're all kind of young and they're in public school. And I'm like, okay. Um, and just so you know, um, you could sell your house outright and you wouldn't have enough for a down payment in a house in LA. And you can't put your kids in public school because they suck in LA for the most part, unless you're living in a very exclusive neighborhood, which of course means you're in a $2, 3, 4, $5 million home, which is not, and again, you have a beautiful 5-bedroom house that you bought for $250,000 in a great neighborhood with great schools. So rethink it, because your chances of bettering your life, you know, for everybody in your family, it gets a little sketchy when you talk about moving to LA, right? And he already had the relationships with an LA agent, and you know what? And he's still doing great. He did not move, and he's still doing great. I think he's speaking at VO Atlanta this year, and like, so we have to rethink this idea that living in LA, living in New York, pursuing those things is the thing that we all should want, and we don't all need that. It's a different thing. And truly, unless you are going to head into animation and you have really, really specific gifts and skills in that area, because that is probably the most competitive area of voiceover, like, rethink it. There's a lot of influence in voiceover land from voice actors and coaches and casting people who live and work in LA. And so they hold out this model, right, of what voiceover is supposed to look like. And they hold all of us to that same standard of what a successful voiceover career is supposed to look like. And it's not true. It's not true. And that's the biggest thing I learned, again, the first time I went to VO Atlanta in 2017. I mean, I saw careers that were flourishing, because of the drive and tenacity and persistence and entrepreneurship of people who wanted a career in voiceover, and they didn't have agents. And that wasn't their thing. That wasn't their goal. Their goal was to work. Their goal was building relationships, right? To have steady clients, right? So that is kind of the mindset that I would hope that I mean, I've shifted mine too, right? Like, it's it's sort of like saying the only way to be an actor is to, you know, is to be in a Steven Spielberg film. It's like, well, that's not true. you know, like, there are really great actors and good successful careers for actors who they're not even in LA. They're not in New York, And when production comes to town, they're there and they have local agents and they get called, by local casting, and and they audition and they're cast, you know? So that's the perspective I'd love to give on that. And I hope it was that that there's some details specific to what you've asked, like how do you do that and what should I have? And then just also kind of the larger thing of like there's a lot to take care of before we really need to talk about
Absolutely. Thank you
and
so much. That
yeah, and
was, I mean, that was great information. I really appreciate that, Kay,
good,
for
good,
going
good,
into
good.
such detail. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, you're welcome.
And
And
it makes a lot of sense.
good. Okay. It's like, and 3 years, 3 years can feel like, yeah, I've been doing this a long time. And it's like, ooh, it's really not. Like it's you're getting revved up, right? And which
Thank
is
you.
all good. And there's a lot more to be had, there's a lot more out
Yeah,
there.
really
So
looking forward to it. Thanks so much
good,
again.
good. You're welcome, Peter.
Hopefully it was helpful for the rest of the people in the group, and I think it was.
Good, good,
Great.
good, good. Excellent. Diana.
Thanks so much, Kay. What
Yeah.
you said about a lot of the information that we hear coming from coastal agencies
Mhm.
or folks who work in the business on the
Yeah.
coast,
Yeah.
not necessarily being relevant to the rest of us. Thank you for saying that. Uh, I'm here in Middle Tennessee with you. I'm in Nashville. We're here for my partner's job, and I do have representation on the coasts. I would love to sort of follow in your footsteps. I would die happy if I could be on Star. In fact, I'm wearing a Discovery shirt on accident today.
Let's go.
Um, when you and I mean you are on another level,
Yeah.
but what I'm wondering is how do you cultivate a career and maybe the bulk of your work does come from your agents. I mean, like I said, you're on another level, but I am among, I think, the rest of us in trying to cultivate direct client
Yeah.
relationships. However, I'm not on pay to plays. I don't think that it's not a fit for me to
Yeah.
pay $5,000 to access certain. It's not a fit for me, the
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
Um, can you speak to or share any information about what, if anything, you do to sort of supplement work that doesn't come from your agents that's in your field?
Oh, this is not my area of expertise. I'll just put that out there.
All good.
I like I have said, I I'm kind of an old school girl. I've been at it for 40 years. And so when I started, it was just there wasn't even any internet, you know. And then it was like, oh, everybody got a pager, uh, and we had to stop if we got a page, and we had to stop at a phone booth and get quarters, to. I mean, it was a crazy time, right? So I just come from a different world, and it's not a better world. It's just a different world, and it's a different time, a different era. And so I spent several years, you know, kind of dancing with pay to plays to see what they were like, and I think I was on Voice 123 the year that it began, and I think and it was a totally different model then. Um, and I cultivated a couple of clients from that were long-term clients for 5, 6, 7 years, kind of, I felt fortunate, with that. Um, but, but I, but I'm not on them anymore, and same, I I realized for myself that I'm not that entrepreneurial. I'm not that, I'm not that motivated. I am the type of person who I freely admit that this is like kind of embarrassing, but I am the type of person who's like, oh, I got an audition. I'll go in my booth now and read it. I was never like, where can I get the audition? Where can I go to get I was available to receive. That was kind of but that's how it was. That that's how the relationship worked. It's like Are you available to come in to read? Yes, I am. Can you get here in 15 minutes? Yes, I can. You know, that was the way in which I was the yes person and like, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available. But it was never, where can I go to look and find how can I develop that relationship? I am I am awestruck by people who can go to a social event and form relationships with people and can be like, hey, you do this, I offer this. If you ever do this kind of stuff, call me. That's foreign to me, totally foreign to me. Um, and it's a piece of why I was so blown away by by people at VO Atlanta, you know, who I mean, Tracy Lindley comes to mind. You know, she was one of the first people that I met there, and I was like, "You what? You do what? And you how did you do that? Like, you don't have an agent? Like, it didn't compute for me, you know." Um, that said, you know, I just did a live announce job here in Nashville. Um, at the Grand Ole Opry Hotel, and then one day of it was at the Grand Ole Opry itself. So I was sitting backstage
Cool.
on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, you know, just like and I'm a singer, and you know that was sort of the thing that I had thought that I was going to do with the rest of my life, you know, when I was in my 20s and stuff. So to be there was like, wow, I never imagined I'd be. I imagined that somewhere that I might, you know, I might end up on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry, but not as a voice actor, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just like relished it, like, well, isn't this crazy, you know, that I'm here and I'm going through the artist entrance at the Opry, you know? And but that job came this way, not from my agents. I was a cocktail waitress in Los Angeles at a club in the late 1980s called At My Place. And it was kind of the premier venue for kind of up and coming, just like all the groovy players, you know, Billy Vare and the Beaters, you know, Michael Rowe. I got like just great. It was great stuff. Small room, like 250, 300 people. Not a big room. Anyway, I served cocktails there, and then I was a bartender there. And on the weekends with the acts, you know, they had comedians open for these acts. And you know, when you're bartending, you get to know these people because they have drink tickets, and it's like they come and then they talk to you about their set and blah blah blah. Anyway, there's a comedian, a few comedians. Jeff Cesario was one, and Pat Hazel, who I thought was particularly funny and just like a sweet, charming guy, right? A guy from Nebraska, right? And he ended up writing for Seinfeld and doing a lot of nights on Carson and Jay Leno and stuff like that. He just, you know, a comedian in LA, you know. Anyway, like we reconnected like 10 years ago on Facebook. Like, hey, Pat Hazel, right? From At My Place, you know, and he's like, yeah, I remember you, you know. So then we're chit-chatting, and then COVID hits, and then he starts a podcast called Creativity and Captivity, and he's interviewing all these creative types. And he's like, hey, can I interview you? And I'm like, yeah. So he interviews me for his podcast. And anyway, he calls me last year and he goes, hey, I do this thing every year at you know, with this company, Brown and Brown, and they might need a live announce. Can I give him your name? I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, and so it ended up like they booked me and I did it. And so to me, like that's what people do all the time. I just do it. I do that once every 15 years. You know, like that's how prevalent that is in my life that I kind of go, yeah, it was a connection I made and we were creatives and we were friendly and you know, and our paths crossed and it was like he knew what I provided, you know, and he thought of me. And so I got the gig, you know? Um, and so, like, do I want more of that? Yes. How badly do I want it that I'm going to go out and now I'm going to find all the companies that do, you know, conferences in Nashville and send them my demo? Probably not, because I don't. It's not my habit. It's not where I live, you know? But that is the way, and I recognize that, right? I kind of go, oh, if only I were so, I never thought about cultivating a relationship, a professional relationship with Pat Hazel so that I could get work. He was just like, no, we're just professional colleagues, you know? And I think that's why it was easy. Because then he goes, well, do you do that kind of thing? Yeah, I do that. Great. Can I give him your number? Yeah, sure. Has nothing. It's no skin off my nose. If they don't call me, they don't call me, you know? So it, again, I'm terribly long-winded and I apologize, but it's it's one of those things where how how willing are you to put yourself out to offer what you have? And there are people far better at this than I am who have the kind of language that you need, mindset language even, to say that you are not out there, begging for work. No, you're out there because you provide a particular service and people need you and you recognize that there's a need. Just like when my sink is clogged, I have need of a plumber. And the plumber is not like, oh my God, I got to beg them for work. I got to beg if I can, if only you'll hire me to clean your sink, to clean out your drain. It's like, no, they're not. It's like, but they make themselves known. Like, hey, I clean drains. And I go, oh, I'm going to call that guy, right? So it's a matter of making yourself known, advertising who you are, what you do, providing samples, that kind of stuff. But uh, again, as to the specifics of it, I'm not great at it. But there are, as you know, Diana, there are like lots of people who are very good at it, and yeah. But
I appreciate it. That's
otherwise, I receive emails, I receive auditions from my agent. That's what I do.
okay. Perfect.
That's what I do.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Thanks,
Oh my
Kay.
goodness,
That's
you're
really
welcome.
helpful.
Anybody else have any questions or any follow-up or anything? Anything? No? Russia. Oops. Just got to
There.
unmute. There
That
we go.
me on?
Yeah. There you
Okay,
are.
lovely. I wanted to thank you for doing what you do, just to give up your time and we get to be together. And it really is wonderful that you do that.
Thank
And I have
you.
a question for you because I have been doing the auditioning and keep auditioning, haven't landed anything, but I'm not giving up. But I am thinking about other things. Like I've really looked into the audiobook thing, and I don't think it's for me. It's for me, the problem is it's too much tech while I'm trying to still focus on having
Yeah.
a likable voice. So unless I could find, and then if you got a job that pays by the hour and it's going to cost me, I don't know, $2.50 an hour to hire a tech guy to clean it up, I don't know. So I'm thinking of other things that I would like to do. And I've heard this thing on audio description. Does that mean anything? What is an audio description? Have you heard that term?
I haven't, but I see that other people are like, yeah. So
Yeah. What's an
I,
audio
do you
description?
want to chime
I
in
think
there?
it's,
Good.
It
I
means
think it's for,
Hey,
oh,
hang on,
sorry.
Diana. And then we'll come back to you.
I had actually gone to a dubbing studio, and basically what it does is it's basically to talk about what is going on with the scene, not what the actors are actually saying, but like
Ah,
walks into a dark room. There's a chair on the left side, something like that.
oh,
And
ah.
also, I don't know if anybody's in the union, but the voiceover lab, I don't know if they've already had it, but I know it came up on the calendar of classes. They started offering a workshop on it. So if anybody has interest, you can go to that. If you're in the union, you can go to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and it's
How else would I find it if I'm not to find
That's a
workshops
good,
on.
that I don't have the answer to. I'm sorry.
But audio description relates to like when you turn on your TV and it
Yes,
says subtitles, but then the other one is the yes, he enters the
correct. So
room.
it's basically like um it's basically for someone that is visually impaired or can't see the screen to describe the scene of what's happening without, it's not the dubbing of what the two actors are saying. It's literally like he walks into a dark room and turns on the light. There's a chair on the left side. You know, he walks past the chair and the dog that's laying down. It's
I've
like
accidentally
that. So it's a
stumbled onto
very
that.
straight
Okay.
description. Mm-hmm.
And how does one find work like that? Is that through the studio directly, or are there, I mean, how do you get that work, do you think? Anyone have an idea?
That I don't know. Like I said, I was at a dubbing house and
Hmm.
I was just talking to one of the engineers there, and they were in the middle of there just happened to be an actor there that was walking in for it, and that was the first time I had learned about it because I only knew about regular dubbing, or I don't know, that's what I call it. But you know,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I, I suppose the first thing I would do is I would do a search, and just ask the question. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but you just don't know what might come up, you know. And I would also ask if, this is where I think it's really helpful to be on specifically Facebook, um, because there are so many voiceover groups that share, with members that share information with each other about where do I look for this and where can I, right? And some groups, you have to feel your way through because some groups are like, well, I'm not sharing that info. It's like, well, then why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, but others are very generous, with the information that they have and the resources that they have. And you just kind of have to find your way and kind of find your people, if you will. Um, but otherwise, I don't know of that work. Like
Okay.
it's not work that I've seen it doesn't come through my agents. That's not to say it doesn't come from others, but I've never
I'll go,
seen it.
I'll go hunting. I'll
Okay.
do that. And the
Okay.
other thing was you said something which was corporate narration. How does one get into that? Or
Well,
is it more technical reading, do you think?
no, not necessarily. It can be. It can be technical depending upon which corporation, you're doing the work for. But that is definitely a build the relationship kind of thing. And I think that a lot of people, if I understand correctly, and those of you who know better than I, by all means, chime in. Um, that's where LinkedIn becomes a resource. You can sort of look up the companies that you might find interest in working for, and you look for production companies, and it's a search and it's an inquiry. It's the building of a relationship to say that you have, you know, this particular skill and et cetera, et cetera. So it's um it, a lot of people, and again, this is not my area of expertise. I mean, I have a friend in Atlanta who she's remarkable to me how she meets people and gets work, and she does a lot of corporate on-camera stuff, which then turns into the corporate voiceover stuff because they're like, "Oh, you do voiceover too?" And then, so a lot of times it's the development of a relationship with a production company, that does corporate production,
Yeah.
you know. So again, these are internet searches. These are,
Yeah.
and you sort of have to ask yourself, what kind of work do I want to do? What kind of businesses would I like to voice for? Um,
I've
so
been doing that sort of research, especially being English. I don't know that many American companies would want my voice
yeah, I
because,
do. You can't even think that way.
oh, okay,
Your
good.
voice is your voice. Your accent is your accent. You put yourself out there, and if they like you, they like you. You,
I
you
mean,
know,
I've been
you.
hunting, what is it, Cunard cruises, English, it's an English cruise line,
Mm,
the ones who had the Titanic.
mm,
Um, and there's another crew, the Viking cruises.
hmm
They have these very almost two English voices.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to figure out how I can get my voice into their ear.
Uh, search their corporate offices
Okay.
and then find out who does their production,
Okay.
right? You just
Corporate
got to
office.
ask
Right.
questions. I think you
Yeah.
got to put
I
yourself
never
out
know
and
the question, but that's it. The corporate office asks who does their production. That's
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yep.
Josie, can I add something?
Yeah.
I'll put
Hi.
my video on. Thanks. Um, yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I don't know if you like worked in corporate or worked with other companies just in your past, but what I did was I used to be in the architectural lighting world. I still kind of am. And essentially when I went into voiceover, I basically just reached out to manufacturers who, because they all do YouTube videos, they all make videos of their products, you know, they're all kind of little adverts, like 2 minute long, you know, little animated stuff. I basically just reached out to all those manufacturers, people I knew, and I said, hey, you know, do you need a voice actor for your videos? And, you know, and I got some jobs from that way. And so that's,
Oh, thank
you know,
you.
it's kind of people who you know, like just in your history. Like that's what I did. I just literally reached out to everybody I knew in corporate and said, hey,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
I knew
great.
they did YouTube videos, and there's so many YouTube videos being made, you know, of everything. And so
Yeah.
it's almost just reaching out to those people, you know, directly. And so definitely people you know. And because my accent's, I always say I'm somewhere in the middle of the ocean, you know, my accent. And I know that is more popular nowadays. But it's funny when I actually record, I get posher. I don't know why, but when I start recording, my voice gets really English and really a lot more articulate and, you know, well spoken.
So funny.
But yeah, just, you know, I would say just reach out to people you know. That's what I
That's a
did.
good
And
idea.
it can help.
Yeah. Smart.
Thank you.
I saw a question in here. Actually, I think it was from you, Russia. Just so you all know, these videos um, always get posted to YouTube, to my YouTube channel. So they're
Oh,
always available to you, and you know, and it's KBS on YouTube. It usually, because I'm so slow, it usually takes about a week for it to be posted. But they're all there, like all of them are there. So if you ever missed or there's something you missed on this one in particular, you can always find them. So I was gonna say, um, if you want sometime, like I'm about to do this myself. You know, my daughter is dyslexic, and she's going to college in the fall, and it's going to be a lot. You know, um, I homeschooled her, and so she hasn't been in a classroom since the sixth grade, and so it was definitely a pared down, you know, school day for her for middle and high school, right? So the idea of her having 4 or 5 classes in a semester with a load that's, you know, it's like, and she has, you know, dyslexia, right? So it's like we're just trying to sort of get her what she needs, you know, to succeed. And I had heard about Learning Ally, you know, for the longest time, which is a resource for people, students, kids, adults who have reading issues, right? And they are a nonprofit, and they provide school books narrated, right? And it's a membership. It's like $135 a year, and a student like my daughter can go to their website and find her books, her textbooks, her, you know, whatever books are required, recorded, right? And it's recorded by volunteer narrators, right? So I think I'm going to do that. You know, like I don't want a career in audiobooks, like for many of the same reasons. Like I don't have the bandwidth for it, but you know, but they allow you to narrate and not produce, right? So it's like just record the files and send them, because they also take volunteers who produce, you know, and who edit and engineer and stuff like that. And so just if you want to sort of get in there and do a little work and do a little good, and kind of keep your chops up and stuff like that. Learning Ally is the name of it, and it's learningally.com. So I was just thinking about it because my daughter needed a textbook, and I'm like, well, let me get her the audio book, which I did, and so she can read along with that, and while she's listening and stuff. And then my friend Danny States had just volunteered to do a book with Learning Ally, and I was like, oh, I should look them up, I should check them out. But anyway, that I just offer that to you in case that's something of interest if you wanted to do a little volunteering, doing what we do. And there you go. Any last questions? Michael,
I had
you got
tried to do
Oh,
book,
go ahead.
the Braille reading for the blind.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a way, and there's even a place here, but so that the Learning Ally is probably what I would have used too if I'd have gone to school. So it's very much up my alley.
Yeah.
So I will find them. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's exciting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought so
Thank you.
too. Like that's fantastic. So
Yeah. It's practice.
yeah, exactly. And you're doing good and helping people and from the bottom of my heart, like I thank all the people who are helping my daughter, So, any last questions? Anything? Is anybody going to VO Atlanta? Anybody? Do you know you're going? Yeah, right on. Good. I'm going too. And I was going to say I'll see y'all there, but I guess I'll just see you, Dina. That's about it then. As always, feel free to, get in touch, send me a message if there's anything I can do or any other question that you thought of that you want to ask before next month. And I'm happy to answer. So that's it. Thank you all. Have a beautiful rest of the month. And I'll see you in.
Thanks so much, Kay.
You're welcome. See you in April.